Right now, you're blinking. Not once in a while, not every few minutes. About 15 to 20 times every single minute. By the time you finish watching this video, your eyelids will have opened and closed well over 100 times. And chances are, you won't consciously notice a single blink. That's strange when you think about it. Evolution is incredibly efficient. Doesn't waste energy on unnecessary movements. So why would your body interrupt your vision thousands of times every day? Why not build eyes that simply stay open forever? The reason is simple. Your eyes aren't passive windows that let you see the world. They're exposed biological sensors, and every second they remain open, the outside world is trying to damage them. Blinking isn't about seeing. It's about survival. To understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. Long before humans existed, life faced a completely different challenge. The first animals lived underwater, where every exposed surface was naturally surrounded by liquid. There was no dry air pulling moisture away, no wind, no dust. Water constantly protected delicate tissues. Then some animals made one of the biggest transitions in the history of life. They climbed onto land. It changed everything. Air is invisible, but it's surprisingly thirsty. Every second, it steals tiny amounts of water from anything that's wet. Skin can tolerate that. It has thick protective layers. Your eyes can't. Because your eye isn't covered by skin. At the very front is the cornea, a perfectly transparent window that allows light to enter. But transparency comes at a price. If the cornea were built like skin, you wouldn't be able to see through it. So evolution faced a difficult engineering problem. Protect the eye without covering it. That's where blinking comes in. Think of your eye as the lens of an expensive camera that's permanently exposed to the weather. Rain, dust, smoke, pollen, tiny particles floating through the air. Even the simple act of walking creates moving air across the surface of your eyes. Now, imagine never cleaning that camera lens. The image would slowly become blurry. Dirt would build up. The surface would dry out. Eventually, it would stop working altogether. Your eyes face that exact problem every waking moment, which means they need constant maintenance. Every blink is one complete maintenance cycle, and that's only the first layer of the system. Because blinking isn't just moving your eyelids, it's also spreading one of the most remarkable liquids your body produces. Your tears. Most people think tears are just water. They aren't. They're actually a sophisticated 3-layer protective coating. Layer 1 is a thin, oily film that sits on top. Its job is surprisingly simple. Slow evaporation. Without this microscopic layer of oil, the water underneath would disappear far more quickly, leaving the eye exposed. Layer 2 is the watery layer. This is what most people imagine when they think of tears. It delivers oxygen, nutrients, and protective proteins, while washing away dust and tiny particles before they can scratch the eye. Then comes layer 3, a sticky mucus layer that anchors everything directly onto the smooth surface of the eye. Without it, the tears would simply slide off like rain on glass. 3 completely different layers, working together, every few seconds, all day, every day. And every blink spreads that protective coating into a perfectly smooth optical surface. Think about that. Your eyelid isn't just closing. It's acting like a biological windshield wiper. But here's where things get even more interesting. If blinking is simply about keeping the eye wet, why can't you just cry all the time? Because that's not how the system works. Every biological system has limits, and every system has a bottleneck. The eye doesn't need more liquid. It needs the right amount, distributed evenly, at exactly the right time. Too little, and the surface dries out. Too much, and your vision becomes blurry. The goal isn't maximum moisture, it's perfect balance. That's what blinking achieves, not by adding more tears, but by constantly maintaining an incredibly thin, perfectly even protective film. It's a tiny movement, but it keeps one of the most advanced optical systems on Earth operating within its limits. But the story gets even stranger, because your eyes have another problem, one that most people never realize exists. Look closely at the white part of your eye. You'll see tiny blood vessels everywhere. Now look at the very center, the cornea. There aren't any. Not one. That seems like a terrible design. Every living tissue in your body needs oxygen and nutrients. Normally, blood delivers both. So why would evolution leave one of the most important parts of your body without a direct blood supply? The answer is simple. Blood is fantastic at carrying oxygen. So evolution made a trade-off: perfect vision or direct blood supply. It couldn't have both. Instead, it invented a completely different delivery system. Every time you blink, your tears spread into an incredibly thin, smooth layer across the cornea. That layer doesn't just keep the surface comfortable. It also carries dissolved oxygen from the air directly to the cells on the front of your eye. In other words, every blink helps deliver one of the ingredients your cornea needs to stay alive. That's genuinely remarkable. The very thing that protects your vision also helps feed it. One tiny movement, two completely different jobs. And this is where the story becomes much bigger than blinking. Here's what makes this so important. Your body is full of systems that quietly maintain themselves without asking for permission. Your heart doesn't wait for you to remember to beat. Your lungs don't ask whether you'd like another breath. Your kidneys never stop filtering your blood. And your eyelids never ask if now is a good time to blink. These systems are automatic because they can't afford mistakes. If they depended on conscious decisions, they would eventually fail. Blinking is one more example of a universal rule. Maintenance is cheaper than repair. Nature rarely builds perfect machines. Instead, it builds machines that can continuously maintain themselves, because that's far more efficient. But here's the catch. Even the best maintenance system has limits. Try staring without blinking for just a short time. At first, nothing seems to happen. Then your eyes begin to feel slightly dry. Seconds later, they start to burn. Your vision becomes less sharp. You instinctively want to blink. That urge isn't weakness. It's a warning. Your body is telling you that the protective tear film is beginning to break apart. Once that smooth layer becomes uneven, tiny dry spots appear on the surface of the cornea. Those areas become vulnerable to friction every time your eyelids move. If ignored for long enough, microscopic damage begins to accumulate. The system isn't failing. It's reaching its limit. That's an important difference. People often imagine the body as an indestructible machine. It isn't. It's a collection of beautifully engineered systems, each operating within a safe range. Step outside that range, and physics takes over. Air continues pulling water away. Friction continues scraping the surface. Cells continue consuming oxygen. The laws of nature don't pause just because you're uncomfortable. Biology adapts. Physics decides. Think about that. Every blink is your body negotiating with the environment. It's constantly replacing what the outside world is trying to steal. Water, protection, optical clarity, over and over again, around 20,000 times every single day. And the strangest part? Your brain makes most of those blinks disappear. If you became fully aware of every blink, your vision would feel like a movie that cuts to black every few seconds. Instead, your brain smoothly stitches the visual world together, filling in the tiny gaps so you experience one continuous picture. You aren't just seeing with your eyes, you're seeing with your brain. The eyelids briefly close. The tear film is restored. The brain edits out the interruption. and your world appears perfectly uninterrupted. A system maintaining another system. Quietly. Relentlessly. Without you ever noticing. So here's the full picture. Hundreds of millions of years ago, life left the water and entered a world that constantly dried exposed tissues. Evolution couldn't simply wrap the eye in skin because skin blocks light. Instead, it built a transparent window. Then it created a 3-layer tear film to protect that window. Then it added a biological windshield wiper to spread that protective coating thousands of times every day. Finally, it gave your brain the ability to erase those interruptions from your conscious experience. Not because blinking improves your vision, but because vision wouldn't survive without blinking. So the next time you catch yourself blinking without thinking, remember what's really happening. For a fraction of a second, your body pauses your sight to preserve it. A tiny maintenance cycle, repeated thousands of times. Every single day. Nature didn't build perfect eyes. It built eyes that could survive an imperfect world. And that might be the most remarkable design of all. If this changed the way you see something you do every day, there's a lot more hidden engineering inside the human body waiting to be discovered. Thanks for watching.